Okay, let's get to this. So we started back with what a proportional relationship is. We took that and built off of it and said, okay, now when a proportional relationship doesn't go through the origin, it goes through another spot. We learned about what slope intercept form is. We took equations like, say, y equals 2x minus 1, and we found and identified the slope, which we said was the number in front of x. It's been the same since it was unit rate. And we also found where we started, our beginning value. The most important part about that, though, is saying, okay, if it's the b, which is our beginning value, aka y-intercept, then it's on the y-axis, and every single point on the y-axis means the horizontal distance that it moved when I plotted that point did not exist. I didn't shift left or right, but I did shift down one. So I really want you to get used to writing the y-intercept as an ordered pair, which is 0, 1, okay? So what that means then is we are ready to graph, okay? So we are going to graph a line in slope intercept form using this information that we know. You know why? Because creating a table of values is getting kind of old, right? Every time we have to pick this table of values, we say 0, -1, and it's a lot of work to try to come up with that. And so what we are saying finally to this table of values is it's there if we need it, but we're about to learn a super duper shortcut way to go ahead and graph these lines. And it does not involve table of values. So I want to take a look at each line individually. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so we can kind of just focus on these two examples first. So the first example I'm looking at says, hey, graph the line y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And if we were thinking in terms of word story problems, we would think, oh, so I'm starting with $4 and I'm saving 50 cents each week. I mean, and you could say, well, I have $0 or 0 weeks, I have $4. After 1 week, I would have $4.50, 2, and you know what? No, we don't want to do that. Okay? But guess what? We just spent all day yesterday identifying M and B for a reason because we're going to use that today, okay? And so looking at this equation, it's already in slope intercept form. The y is by itself. I don't have to move anything around. I literally just have to write that my slope is 1/2 and my beginning value is 4, but we write it 0, 4. And right now I have everything I need in order to graph a line. I need 2 points to graph a line, right? And so if I were to ask you to go ahead, and you don't have a table of values, you guys, this is the first time we're doing this without a table, but we do know where to begin. We're going to begin on the y-axis at 4, which means 0 means don't shift left or right, but go up 4, okay? And so this is where I don't want to have to tell you it. I want you to be able to think about it. If I need 2 points to make a line and I already have one of them, if I have my ruler out and ready, I don't really have a ruler here, but if I had a ruler and I had it out and ready to put, you know, where would I put my next point at? Well, that is where this guy comes in. And if you remember back to when we learned about slope, we defined slope as the rise over the run, correct? Which means my 1 is my rise and my 2 is my run. And so watch, keeping my pencil on my y-intercept, I'm going to use this, and this is where the M comes in. Because if B is where you begin, M is where you're going to move. And so go here and rise 1 and run 2. And I have my second point. I'm going to try to draw a straight line. And that is how you are going to graph a line without making a table of values using M and B. Let's do it again. Let's take a look at this one. I'm not making a table of values, but I am going to say, okay, my movement, my slope is 3/4, and my beginning value is 0, -5. And so I know where to begin. I'm gonna go to the y-axis. It's always the y-axis, you guys. It's never gonna be this one. It's never gonna be this -5. That's an x-intercept. We'll learn that later. But I'm gonna start at 0, -5, and from there, I'm gonna move. My rise is 3 and my run is 4. And something I need you to keep in mind is that you're running to the right now. So I'm gonna rise 1, 2, 3, run 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you have your line. And if I were to take a closer look, you'd be able to see my rise of 3 is right here, and my run of 4 is right there. And I only need 2 points to make my line. There's my 0, -5. I don't really care what this point is. I just use my 3/4 to get there, okay? Let's do another one. This one looks a little different, and so let's always just start by identifying the M and the B. I'm gonna begin at 0, 1, because that's the B, and I'm gonna move. Oh my gosh, my cats just scared me. 2. So let's start at, I'm gonna use a colored pencil for this one. 0, 1 is right here, and let's move. Well, I'm looking at 2, and boy, I never thought you'd say this, but having that fraction was actually kind of helpful because I knew my rise was 1 and my run was 2. Here, my rise was 3 and my run was 4. But I don't see a fraction. And you guys know, if you don't see a fraction, you know that you can make it into a fraction, right? By just doing this and creating it over 1. And so I purposely chose this example because I want you to see that when you encounter a whole number slope, that your run is just 1. So from 0, 1, I'm going to run up 2 and over 1. And that's all I need. I mean, I could keep going up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1 if I wanted. I could even go down 2 and left 1, down 2 and left 1 if I wanted. But I only need these 2 points to make my line, and that's my graph of y = 2x + 1. Now, let's try this. This is a proportional relationship. It's the stuff that we've been working on. It's in the form y = mx. There's nothing here after it, which if you remember from the notes we took yesterday, when it's missing that b value, it's 0, 0. It's going through the origin. So when there's no number here, I think sometimes a lot of people like to go ahead and put +0. Just because it helps them feel a little more comfortable. Okay, now it's 0. And so now I know I'm going to begin right at the origin. Now, I need you to pay attention to this because I introduced the concept of a negative slope a couple weeks ago. My rise has a negative number. I'm not going to rise up 3 and run 5. I'm still going to run to the right, but I'm not going to rise up from my beginning value. You guys, I'm going to run down. So my rise is down. It's like pushing a negative button in the elevator. You're going down, but I'm still moving right. You need 2 points to make a line. You got everything you need. Let me just show you where this -3/5 comes from. And that's how you graph that one. Okay? All right, let's take a look at this one. This last one was missing a B. Okay, this time we have no coefficient, but we already talked about what that means, so we shouldn't have a problem with this. That's why we did the lesson prior to this. My M and my B, my beginning value is -3. And my M, we learned, is when you have a variable by itself, your coefficient is 1, which means that's 1. Now it's also a whole number, and so just like I did with the 2 right here, I have to take that and put it over 1. And so we're gonna learn something real quick and easy. I'm gonna start at 0, -3, and my slope of 1 is like a little staircase. It means go up 1 and right 1, up 1 and right 1. Literally, it's the simplest, easiest slope to do because you don't have to remember anything other than up 1 over 1. That is when your slope is 1. And so I want you to think about this. This is your proportional relationship of y equals x shifted down 3. Got it? Which means that this one shouldn't be too confusing either, because if I'm looking at y equals -x, and I need to take a look at what my m and my b are, my beginning value has nothing there, which means I'm starting at a beginning value of the origin, right? Again, remember what I said, some people like to kind of say, okay, nothing there, 0, 0, right there. Now, this one has not a 1 in front of it, but a -1, which means when I had 1, I went up and right, up and right. This one is going to mean I'm going to drop down 1, but still run to the right. So this is a drop of 1, and this is how you graph without a table. Here is your down 1, here is your right 1. Got it? Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of these other ones on the back, and you know what's going to happen. Oh man, I got to graph this equation, except it's not in the form that I need it to be in. Sorry, zoomed way out. How I want it to look is this. I need to get it into slope intercept form to graph it. And that means y needs to be by itself. But luckily, I already told you what to do when you have the equation that's not solved for y. You use inverse operations, and we are going to rewrite a brand new and improved y equals. And again, I like my slope first, then my y-intercept, which now my m is going to be, and that didn't change, it's going to be up 1 over 3, but the only thing that I needed to, that I might have thought my y-intercept was 0, -4, is actually going to be 0, +4, which means I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go up 1 over 3, and there's my line. Okay, we don't even need to do that one. Let's move down to this, and this takes some explanation because for the first time, we're looking at this equation and it's missing an x. And when we did our slope lesson, you guys, I showed you on how to graph these two lines. You just made a table of values and you just went, well, if they're telling me that y has to be equal 5, then I guess I better make all of them 5. And that meant that you could pick whatever you want for x. You could pick 1, 2, 3. And so to graph this, you remember the purpose of today's lesson is to not have to use our table of values, but I'm falling back on it to show you that you can use it. Now let's just plot these points. 1, 5, 2, 5, 3, 5. Well, guess what? I could do -8, 5. If I'm going to go up 5 every single time, do you remember graphing what we called a horizontal line? Hey, what kind of slope does a horizontal line have? Remember that it's not going up from left to right, so it's not positive. It's not going down from left to right, so it's not negative. And if it's not positive or negative, you told me that this line had a slope of 0, and you would be absolutely right. Let me show you what this looks like. If you have y equals, and this is a total another way to do this, 0x. Let's do it this way. Y equals 0x plus 5. So you're not really gonna see this equation written this way, but I wanna show you that you can fall back on it if you need to. Here I am starting my b at 5, right here. And what's my slope? 0, which means up 0 over 1, up 0 over 1. So y equals 5 is a horizontal line that crosses the y-axis at 5. Let's take a look then at what x equals -6 is. And hopefully you remember this. If you don't remember, you can fall back on this table of values every single time. They're telling you, guess what? X has to be -6. I don't care what you choose for y, but x has to be -6. Let's choose -5, 0, and 8. I just chose whichever ones I wanted. Now watch what's going to happen. I'm going to go and I'm going to graph -6, comma, -5, which is right here. Then I'm going to graph -6, comma, 0. Then I'm going to graph -6, comma, 8. And what happens is they all fall on one vertical line. And so if this slope is 0, do you remember what we talked about the slope of a vertical line is? The slope of a vertical line doesn't exist. It's undefined. Okay? And so these last special cases, it's really important for you to kind of take a look at that, you know, y equals 5 is different than y equals 5x. Okay, let's get rid of this negative here for a second. And I want to show you the difference between y equals 5 and y equals 5x. Okay, so y equals 5 is a horizontal line going right here because the slope is 0 and our beginning value is 5. Here is my slope is 5, but my y-intercept is 0. So watch, I'm starting here and I'm actually going up 5 over 1. It's pretty steep. So look, well, the equation of this line is y equals 5x. The equation of this line is y equals 5. See the difference? I really wanted to use a different color for that. So this line is y equals 5. This one is y equals 5x because your beginning value is 0. And from 0, you're going up 5 over 1. Okay, that's how we are going to graph linear equations in slope-intercept form without using that funky table of values.